Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. All right. We're going to take a little bit of break from the Browns craziness going on, and we're going to bring in my guy. I haven't had you on in a while, man. Steelers DB. You have a YouTube channel, right, where people could check you out. Tell everybody where they can find you before we get started, my man.
Yep. It's at Steelers_DB on Twitter and YouTube. And then on my written work can be found at SteelersNow.com. I promise that I am a unbiased person that covers the Steelers. I know that's kind of rare among these parts these days. But yeah, enjoy talking football. Glad to be back on the channel to talk with you, man.
Look, when it comes to this, people have their fandoms, people have their things that they're obviously going to always want to have succeed, but you're fair, right? Like, I think that's always what's important, is that you're not going to be dishonest about what it is that you're seeing to try to prove a point or win an argument. Is why I like having you on. So let's start with Pittsburgh, because, you know, I remember when Pittsburgh used to be boring in the offseason, right? Like, and they used to not do much. And this has very much not been that. You get the DK Metcalf trade. I'm surprised more people don't talk about this Jalen Ramsay trade. Like, it seems like it kind of just came and went. I'm like, they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsay, and like, it's kind of like people are talking about it like a footnote. There's some interesting stuff going on this offseason. Obviously, and Aaron Rodgers thing was a whole storyline for Pittsburgh. Do you think this is just like what the Steelers do now under Omar Khan? Like, it's just a completely different organization, and like what we've gotten used to, we got to kind of throw out the old, what we know about the Steelers rule book, and it's just different now?
Yeah, I mean, I think with under Omar Khan and then assistant general manager Andy Whitehall, I think that there's been a philosophy change. You're seeing more of a heavier investment in the trenches. You know, they drafted back-to-back tackles in the first round, came back around this year, drafted Derek Harmon in the first round. I think that's really been the most noticeable thing for me. But also, I just think that the Steelers, whether they've been able to get the deal done or not, they've just been a lot more active on the open market when it comes to trying to pursue some veterans. They've been more willing to go out and acquire older guys, used to under like Kevin Colbert and in the earlier Mike Tomlin era. Basically, if you were over 30 years old, they weren't going to sign you in free agency, and they weren't really looking to do any of these blockbuster trades. And they've kind of proven, especially this offseason, you mentioned the Jalen Ramsay thing just recently, a couple weeks ago, and then the DK Metcalf. I mean, Metcalf was, you know, they traded a second-round pick and then gave him top 5 wide receiver money. I mean, that's an unprecedented thing in Steelers history, probably the biggest trade that they've ever made, just from what they gave up, a value investment standpoint. So, yeah, I do think the tide is definitely turning. This is a more, I would say, aggressive front office than what we've seen in years past. But I'm interested to see how these moves are going to play out, not just this year, but, you know, the Metcalf thing in particular. You're making that move because you think that he could be kind of the linchpin and really the focal point of a passing game, not just this year, but years to come. So excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm curious about, right, and that makes me kind of skeptical of everything Pittsburgh's done is you trade George Pickens, you get older at wide receiver, right? You trade Minkah, you get older DB and Jalen Ramsay, and then you even got older from Russell Wilson last year at quarterback. And to me, I'm wondering, like, what exactly is the timeline for Pittsburgh? Like, are they really bought in on this Aaron Rodgers thing? Like, because to me, I don't look at Aaron Rodgers like it's 2020. Well, that was his last MVP year, 21?
Yeah,
anymore.
21.
Like, I look at the last 3 seasons he's had, like, those teams have been better after he's left or before he got there. So I don't know if he's that elevator that he used to be anymore. Is that kind of how they're viewing this, where they legitimately think they have a chance to at least get to the second round?
I don't think that they can be considered all in just because of how they approach free agency. You know, they really protected their comp picks. They're projected to get 4 next year, including like a 3rd-round pick for Dan Moore. I mean, they're going to have a lot of draft capital, presumably to go up and trade for a quarterback in next year's draft. So I don't necessarily think that they're all in. They haven't done really a ton of like mortgaging the future and making these moves. It's almost like they want to remain competitive, do the Steelers thing, right? They want to remain competitive, give themselves a shot to try to make the postseason. What happens when they get there ultimately is probably going to be decided by the fact that they don't have enough quarterback player, enough offensive firepower to kind of go toe to toe with, you know, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, guys like that. And we've seen that story play out. So it is kind of frustrating that they've been stuck in the middle. for so long now. But as far as the Rodgers thing, I'm kind of with you. Whereas, like, I'm in like wait and see mode. I am open to the fact that maybe he is a little bit more receptive to playing in a point guard role, where he's getting the ball out, being able to trust the offensive line a little bit more to push the ball down the field. But again, you're looking at a guy who's over 40 years old. He just had a significant injury. Some of the things about Rodgers' game, the quick twitch, athleticism in the pocket, I just don't see that being able to come back at his age.
Mhm.
But he can still spin the ball when he's kept clean. And I do think that his play style is less volatile and easier to build an offense around than like Russell Wilson, who really only does one thing at like an exceptional level, and that's throw the deep ball. But everything else around his game is pretty much eroded. So I don't know that Rodgers is a significant upgrade and definitely not an elevator, like you said, that he was in years past. But, maybe more stability on offense and more flexibility on defense with Jalen Ramsay could give them some good returns, even if it's not going to mean a ton more like wins and losses in 2025.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about when it comes to like 42-year-old quarterback and then hoping he brings stability is that he's 42, right? And your body
He can
is
get
not going to
hurt.
be
Yeah.
stable, right? I mean,
Well,
even if he doesn't get
yeah.
hurt, it's just like the week to week. I talk about this with Joe Flacco because the Browns might roll him out there. There's no way you're going to
Hmm.
get 17 games out of Joe Flacco because
Yeah.
something like his body's going to deteriorate to a point where maybe he's not injured, but yeah, I mean, we've gotten older. Your shoulder just start hurting for no
Yeah.
reason, dog. Like as you get older,
Yeah.
and it affects everything about how you can perform if you try to do something physical. And I imagine if after a long NFL career, right, like especially Aaron Rodgers, who did take a lot of hits, like with how he played
Hmm.
early in his career, that's gonna be something that is likely to pop up on top of like his fatigue with his calf because he
Yeah.
has had the injury, right? KD talks about it like when you come back from that Achilles injury, it's like you have no calf muscle, right? Like
Yep. Building that back.
it's yeah, it's so and like trying to build it back up at 42, right? Like so, that's the one thing I look at Pittsburgh and I go, I think it's probably going to look fine the first half of the season, but if we're talking about a team that is notoriously like had these second half falls, do you think this
Yeah.
is the year where they're going to be able to avoid that? Because I don't know if I'm necessarily buying into that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in wait and see mode for sure. I mean, you mentioned with Rodgers and the hits thing. I mean, there were just times last year, like you watched the Jets film. I went back and watched every single drive back at least once. And, there are times where I felt like he was just kind of, over it and not wanting to stay in the pocket and take those hits. And I just think that that's just part of it, right? Like you're an older
Mm-hmm.
guy. Those hits don't feel as good at 42 as they did at 22. And I'm in wait and see mode to see like what the offense looks like. I think that there are elements to things that they even did in New York last year schematically that could be beneficial to this offense. How they merge with those like the ideas between those two guys is going to be interesting. And I do think that, if the offensive line, that's kind of like the one place where I think that they could make substantial gains this year. I was pretty high on Troy Fautanu as a prospect, getting him back at right tackle. I'm very, very close to hitting the red button on Broderick Jones experience, but I do think that Zach Frazier already showed that he's already a really good player along the interior. So Fautanu is who I think he is. And then, Frazier continues to ascend into like one of the better centers in the league. I think the offensive line and the run game will hopefully be better. But yeah, I'm kind of like you, whereas I think they've done a lot of moves. I'm just not necessarily confident that they stack up better in the AFC than they even did like last year. And I do think that you look at the schedule, second half of the season, when they start to play some of the better quarterbacks, I think they could probably be in for a similar kind of road there.
Also, like, he's in the AFC North, and there are some dudes in the AFC North that can get to the quarterback, right? Like, I mean,
Well,
even
they're
look.
about to have Broderick Jones trying to block Miles Garrett. Yeah, I mean that's number one concern. Someone asked me about this on I do a monthly mailbag for our site, and somebody asked me like, "What's the thing that is bothering you the most that like people aren't talking about?" And I'm like, "You have a tackle who has made no technical development over the first 2 years of his career. You're about to switch him sides, and then oh yeah, he's gonna have to face Miles Garrett and Trey Henderson, who line up." On the right side, right across from him, like
Mm.
80% of the time. It's like, dude, that's not going to be a fix all that people think it's going to be. So, Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, him feeling comfortable in the pocket is going to be like the number one thing I look for over the first month of the season. I think we're going to be able to tell how that experiment is going to go very quickly.
Yes. So let's flip sides to the defensive side of the ball.
Hmm.
Obviously made the Jalen Ramsey trade, but the other thing going on is this TJ Watt contract situation.
Yep.
What kind of resolve do you have it? Because like I find this interesting because I understand why Pittsburgh's not like gung ho about giving him Myles Garrett money.
Yeah.
Like honestly, my personal theory is like there's like Tyreek Hill gets Tyreek Hill money, right? But then everybody else starts to get Tyreek Hill money, and that's when people start to get overpaid, right? When it's like,
Yeah.
all right, man, let's give Drake London $40 million a year to play
Yeah.
wide receiver. It's like Drake London's all cool, but like, damn, like, is
Yeah.
he that good? And I think Pittsburgh's worried about that with TJ. And last year wasn't like his greatest year when it came to advanced numbers as well, and it kind of
Hmm.
has been a bit of a trend in the opposite direction for him. What do you think this is going to be resolved to? Are they going to trade him? They're going to re-sign him? Like, what's going to go down with
Yeah.
this TJ situation?
I mean, obviously, the second half of the year last year, the numbers kind of took a little bit of a downward fall. I think a couple things could be explained by that. The amount of times that he's getting chipped, and because like he doesn't move around the formation very much, it's easy to
Mhm.
kind of target him in that regard. He's also over the course of time become a more, I don't want to say like one dimensional, but a more predictable pass rusher. Whereas like he's really just like a high side rusher where he's trying to win the outside corner almost every time. He isn't as willing these days to like take an inside track. There's not as much like speed to power. And the numbers speak for themselves in recent seasons. Like you look at all the sacks that he's compiled. I just think over the course, like as your game ages, maybe once you get into your 30s, are you still going to have that like elite first step? Are you still going to be able to bend like the way that you could 5 years ago? I don't necessarily know that the Steelers are all that concerned about that, to be honest. And I think that TJ still has like a couple great years left in him. And ultimately, that's why I think that he's going to end up getting paid. I actually do think that they're going to pay him probably just slightly more than Myles Garrett, like on a AAV standpoint. I don't know about the guaranteed money. I think that's the main holdup right now. That and
Do you
like the
think it'll
total
be
length of the
similar length?
contract. I see that's what I can't figure out is like I've heard some people say that like the Steelers may be pushing for like 3 years, 41
Mm.
million a year. I've heard some people say that like, he's pushing for 4, which I think that makes sense on his end because he is over 30 now. This is gonna be his last chance to kind of cash out. I think ultimately it gets done. I think from my perspective, I'm less worried about TJ declining to the point where like the contract looks bad a year from now, or like the second half of last season is like a predictor of what we're going to see in 2025 and 2026. My biggest concern is like by the time the Steelers are ready to win again and like compete for a Super Bowl, which should be the goal, right? Like for the Browns, it
Hmm.
should be the goal for the Steelers. Is TJ still going to be the type of player, the alpha dog of a 4-man pass rush that can lead a defense at 33, 34 years old when it's 2027 and they're ready to go try to win the Super Bowl with this younger quarterback on a rookie deal? You know what I'm saying? And like,
Yeah.
that's why I think the conversation needs to be opened up a little bit more. It's like, I personally, the way I've kind of framed it is like, I think TJ deserves his money and I want everybody to get their own bread from a personal standpoint. But are
Mhm.
we sure the Steelers are the team that should be paying him that money instead of looking for value elsewhere? Which is a difficult conversation because, like, I'm sure you went through this with Myles Garrett too. It's like, you know, fans have an emotional attachment to star players like this, and it's
Yes.
difficult to remove that passion, that emotional attachment from these type of conversations. So ultimately, I think he gets paid and he puts up a lot of good numbers. It hurts me to think about the fact that like he's probably not going to get to compete for a Super Bowl during his prime. But I look at a player that accomplished. I think he deserves that.
Absolutely. It this is what makes me like really interested in what Pittsburgh's been trying to do. Like, because it's
Hmm.
like you would think they understand they don't have a quarterback like in for the future at least, right? Like who knows? This Aaron Rodgers thing, maybe it lasts a year. If you're lucky, 2 years, right? Like I think that's the most you can
Yeah,
really push
year.
out of it. Yeah. So they have to understand at some level, like they're gonna have to get a quarterback. They're gonna have to try to like build around him. And maybe they think they could just get to a situation where it's kind of like I would say Bo Nix would probably be what the Steelers are hoping for, where it's like somebody young who could step in right away, you can make the playoffs with. in the 2026 draft, right? Let's just throw Garrett Nussmeier as like a name out there, right? Like that
Sure.
feels like somebody can get mid 15 right now. And maybe that's what they're hoping for, but it's like, oh man, you purposely did get older at all of these key positions.
Oh yeah.
And that's the part that I just can't really square. Is like, okay, well, they're hesitating on this TJ thing because they don't know where they're gonna be by the end of this contract. But it's like you pulled the trigger on trading to get old. Well, what Mika was like 28. You brought
Yeah.
in Jalen, who's 30.
Yep.
You know, George Pickens was what 25, 26, and then you brought in 28 year old DK Metcalf. So you have accelerated your timeline, which would make me think that like, okay, you think you're going to be able to solve this pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like you're waffling on the TJ thing, and it's like, how do these two things make sense? Like, what is the actual timeline that
Yeah.
Pittsburgh thinks they're on? And let's talk about the Jalen Ramsay trade. This was I'm just fascinated to know what you think about this one, because like I don't know
Yeah.
what to put my finger on.
Well, it's been tough because we haven't even gotten like a press conference or anything like that from the Ramsey thing. So we haven't even
Really?
heard the coaches talk about him yet. And training camp opens in a week. So we'll have a better idea of what that looks like. I'll say this. I've watched pretty much every rep of his past 2 seasons with the Dolphins. I thought 2 years ago, like his film was very eye opening to me. Coming back from the injury that he had earlier in the summer, he was very, very good in 2023. I thought last year's tape wasn't as clean. There are more definitive losses, especially like in press coverage where guys were able to kind of get him either to open up the gate or get him on his heels a little bit, but he can still run. Like I do think that he can, like at first when I saw the trade, I'm like, oh, like I wonder if the free safety thing is coming sooner than later, just because like they traded away Minka Fitzpatrick. Maybe that's the solution there. Then I watch his tape and I'm like, no, he's still a corner. Like he still moves way too good to like put him back there at free safety right now. I think the thing that I am cautiously optimistic about is Ramsey is one of the most physical defensive backs in the entire NFL. Like you talk about being like an elite force player out on the perimeter, like he takes on blocks with force. He can come down and hit him. He's been a historically really good tackler. The missed tackle numbers were a little bit elevated last year, but he's a guy who, you know, he's big, he's got long arms, he can match up with different body types. And also, like Miami kind of flirted with the idea of like using him as a blitzer. And I
Mm,
am very intrigued about the things that you could open up schematically with him inside in the slot, get more creative with your pressure pass, do different things like that, get back to blitzing a little bit more, being a little bit more aggressive and taking kind of the fight to the opponent rather than sitting back and like, you know, a lot of their cover three stuff. So I think that Ramsey, they might view him as a more versatile or flexible chess piece on the back end that can do a lot of different things and kind of be this like shape shifting presence. Whereas maybe they just thought that Minka Fitzpatrick was just really, we're going to have you play center field. We're going to have you line up in the post on early downs. Third down, you're going to come down to the intermediate level, play the hook curl, and that's really all we think you can do. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I don't necessarily agree with that notion. But as far as Ramsey, I do still think there is a really, really good player in there if they use him to his strengths. I wouldn't put him at safety. I would still play him at boundary corner, like in base personnel, and then I'd kick him inside to the slot because of how well he plays the run. But I'm I'm open to the idea that the Steelers defense could be better next year with Ramsey and without Fitzpatrick. But it is a gamble because, like you said, Minka was only 28, coming off a down season by his standards for sure. But the
mhm,
idea that he's not a good player anymore, that like some like Steelers fans are trying to cope with, it's just really not true. It's kind of like a bad media narrative type of thing
mhm.
that like when you watch the film, it's pretty easy to figure out that that's even if there was a step down last year, I was pretty confident he was going to bounce back, and they kind of gave up on that experiment to get older, like you said. So I'm open to the idea that it'll be better. I'm interested in it. I do think it's a little more risky than an approach that they would typically take.
It was fascinating watching people like, I guess, cope with the trade, like, or find their
Mm-hmm.
way of like, because for years I remember Steeler fans telling me like, oh yeah, the reason we're not seeing Minka look like Minka right now is because we don't have anybody worthwhile in the slot. And then you trade for Jalen Ramsey. And I thought, like, I didn't even entertain the idea that like Minka would be a part of that. I'm thinking like that's
I don't
to
think any of us did either.
allow,
Yeah.
yeah, Minka to do what Minka does. And then I realized like they put Minka in the trade.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden Steelers fans are like, this guy that they have told me nonstop was one of the best safeties in football, which I thought was like the case. They're like all of a sudden, well, he's been cooked the last year. And I'm like, all right, man.
Yeah.
Like, all right, man.
You know how that is, man. Like I said,
Yeah.
people can't be rational like it at all with anything these days. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how it plays out. I am a little bit worried because like right now their free safety starter like on paper is going to be Juan Thornhill, and I thought that his tape was pretty rough. So yeah, and I definitely don't think he's the caliber of player that can even do the stuff that they were asking like Minka to do last year. So we'll see. I mean, there are some free safety options like Julian Blackman's out there in free agency. I would be intrigued about adding him to the equation, but yeah.
You're being kind about that Juan Thornhill playmaking in the pass game note.
I just think he was checked out. I mean, he definitely was checked out during times last year for sure, which is a red flag. So
yeah, I mean, he was checked out sometime when we went 11-5. So like,
yeah, get that payday, man.
You think about going back to Kansas City, like straight up. They one of those guys that leave the Kansas City nest, and you're like, you want to go back.
Yeah,
so, it's like watching a wrestler leave WWE. You're like, oh man, that dude does not care about anything but getting back to WWE. Like that dude wants to go back to Kansas City so bad. Because when he came to Cleveland, first thing he said was, y'all not winners like the fans in Kansas City. I'm like, well, you're gonna have a rough 3 years here. Like it's gonna be rough.
That's why we brought you in here to change that, dog.
Yeah. He's like, y'all gotta get your mindset right. He's doing this on Twitter. I'm like, oh no, dog, this is bad. So yeah, it's something with Juan Thornhill. And maybe they think they see something there that gives them some confidence. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that it's impossible the Steelers defense can't be better this year. I just wonder like how much longer is it gonna be better, right? Like, and like, is it gonna be better enough to really change the fortune? Like, one of the things I'm looking at with Pittsburgh is like, y'all found a really interesting way to freshen up probably winning 10 games, right?
Yeah.
Like, depending on what kind of season you get for Chris Boswell, right? I think that's people give Mike Tomlin all the credit for like the over 500 thing. I'm like, Chris Boswell deserves as much credit for that as anybody because he has been such a solid kicker for them for so long. And like a couple of bad Chris Boswell seasons in the right year, right? One of them Mason Kenny Pickett years, probably tanks that whole Mike Tomlin doesn't go under 500 thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is like you look at like their defensive numbers even from last year. I mean, they were 7th in points per drive. They were top 10. I think they were 8th, in EPA per play. And around that same range, they were 9th in EPA per play. And then they were 20th in success rate. So the defense is a little bit more volatile than it probably should have been. A lot of that is because they were bad down the stretch. Like,
yeah, it was
really bad.
Because I remember after that like Chargers game, I was like, oh, they're the best. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like I was wrong. I thought Pittsburgh's defense would take a step back last year, right? And then the rest of the season happened, and I'm like, I don't know what happened like to them. But
yeah, they ran into like a buzzsaw of like the best quarterbacks down the stretch. They were having a bunch of communication errors. But like this year, like you look at the money that they've allocated on that side of the ball, they're the top in the league in terms of spending on the cap on defense. You know, that's not necessarily a new thing, but it's one of those things where if you're not a top 5 defense, you're not getting adequate return on investment. And I think you got to point fingers.
What would you call a successful season for Pittsburgh this year, given like all the moves they like? I imagine first round exit cannot be seen as successful when you have made these, because you could have been a first round exit team. You just ran everything back.
Yeah. You know, it's tough. This is an article that I like to write every year, like right before the season opener about like what would a successful season be. Sometimes that article results in like something really simple as far as like win a playoff game. A couple years ago, it was like seeing what you have in Kenny Pickett, like him taking a
Hmm.
step forward to where you feel like he's the starter for your franchise for the foreseeable future. None of those things have actually come to fruition. They've been kind of like what we're talking about. They've been the same team for however many years now. I'm not sure that's going to be different this year. I think the big thing for me personally, like in terms of what I want to see, is I think I just want to see their offensive line take a noticeable step forward, like I mentioned with the Fautanu thing, and just I don't want to say like QB proof the offense, but like I want a rookie quarterback next year to be able to step into an ecosystem where I feel comfortable about the state of the offensive line, even if you don't have all five positions solved, right? Feel
Hmm.
comfortable about the state of the offensive line. You got a number one wide receiver in DK Metcalf, who's one of the best like explosive play generators in the sport. And then if the run game could be like more stable, like they've been a horribly efficient rushing team for like the last decade. And
Yeah.
they've got to get back to like being able to run the football. So I think if the ecosystem on offense, like who cares what Rodgers does this year, really? Like you said, all in all, it's not really going to lead to a magical season, more or less, unless they're like the 2015 Broncos. So for me, it's like the ecosystem around the quarterback on offense showing promise. And then I would like to see like one guy in the 2023 draft class actually ascend to like a foundational piece. I think they've got a
Mm.
lot of solid players. Porter, Keanu Benton, Nick Herbig is a guy who I think is really underrated. Darnell Washington's a great blocking tight end. I want one of those guys to ascend from, okay, he's solid, he's a good player, to like them being like, oh, we actually really have something here. We can build around this player, give him a nice extension in the offseason. So those things would be kind of best case scenarios for me. Winning a playoff game is whatever. I'm not expecting them to do that this year, even with all the moves they made, which maybe that's just me coping with the inevitable result. I don't know. But to me, I already have like kind of like one eye looking towards 2026, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, when you don't have a quarterback, it's all about getting the quarterback, right? Like that's kind
Yeah,
of
it's like
what it
almost all that
is.
matters, man. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's just the state of the NFL, especially like where we play, right? Like the AFC North, a lot of good quarterbacks
Yeah.
over there. It's tough out
Yeah.
here.
You could legitimately have Justin Herbert and you still have the third best quarterback in the AFC North.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's tough.
it's absolutely rough, right?
It's tough out here.
Which makes, like, I made this point with Browns fans when we were talking about quarterback at two. I'm like, hey man, if you don't think that guy can put you on the same tier as like Lamar or Joe, you kind of just can't do it. Right.
No,
Like
yeah,
you can't commit 10 years to like I at quarterback and think you're gonna be fine in a conference where it's like just Herbert don't do shit, right? Like he's
yeah.
really, really good, right? Like there's a lot of quarterbacks who are at the cusp of top five. Maybe in the NFC you could get away with it, but like in the AFC North, it's like what NFC you got to play with Matt Stafford, Jaden
Yeah,
Daniels as a rookie. Like
yeah.
that's the big quarterback challenge you have to go through. It's like even if you get out the first round and you beat Lamar Jackson, oh yeah, Josh Allen, right?
Just waiting for
Or
you at the
Josh
door.
Allen, yeah, you get through Josh Allen. Oh, now you got beat Pat in the
Yeah,
conference championship game, right? Where he does all the unbelievable Pat shit, like out of nowhere, even if he's having a bad year.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's tough, right? And I see Pittsburgh starting to build their own little quarterback jersey up, just like Cleveland. You know, maybe we could be
I'm
twins one
not.
day.
I'm not looking forward to that. It's really tough too because, you know, I don't know. I ain't gonna say I've had it worse than you guys have because I got to enjoy like elite quarterback play for 15 years and that was
Uh-huh.
really fun. But it's almost more difficult to like go from that to have a guy that like every Sunday when you wake up, no matter the opponent, you felt like, okay, we have a chance to win this game no matter what. And then now to having like, okay, can this guy just like not screw up the game for us? To go from that and to be stuck in that kind of purgatory is a really, really difficult place to
It's
land.
like, yeah, it's like going from having a big ass house to living in a one bedroom apartment again,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the fall off feels worse than never having it at times. Like I think I feel that way
Yeah.
about LeBron when I watch the Cavs in the playoffs, where I'm like, well, I never had to worry about shooting 30% from three,
Yeah.
like,
Because he can go shoot 55%.
from the floor, right? Like LeBron's
Yeah.
gonna get it, make it
Yeah.
happen. Oh yeah, this guy's hurt. LeBron not hurt. All right, we can still win, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That was legit the math you had to do with them back in the day. And I can understand how going from having that dude, watching that dude kind of fizzle out and then finally retire and then being
Yeah.
like, oh man. And then like also the thing I think that makes it worse is they did so much dilly-dallying when they had that last run of Ben with the
Yes.
triple Bs and they kind of fucked around.
And
And
that's kind of the point that
yeah.
I get frustrated with is like it's not necessarily these last like 3 or 4 one and dones that they've had in the playoffs where like they sneak in, they get just like absolutely obliterated. Those aren't even like it's annoying because you've seen the movie before, but
Mhm.
it's not frustrating to where it's like, oh man, like we missed out on chances. But you go back to like some of those years, like 2014, 2017, teams like where they were really good. Maybe they didn't like 2017 was different because they ran into Jacksonville and they were healthy. But some of those other years were like they didn't have like one of those guys healthy or they were playing banged up. And those are the missed opportunities that kind of like make me kind of disappointed more than anything. But like you said, it's just tough like going from that, like seeing like a league quarterback play like firsthand and then now being stuck in this kind of position. But I don't know, man. College football season's coming up. I'll be glued to the TV on the multi-screen trying to see if I can find our next our
I've
next
been telling
quarterback.
Browns fans, I'm like, boy, you better hope somebody win the Heisman Trophy at that
I know,
quarterback
man.
position, right?
Everybody
Like,
keeps asking me. I'm like, man, it's a lot of question marks out here right now. So there's a lot of talented passers in college football. There's nobody on the I would say Caleb Williams, Drake May type of development arc where heading into the season, you're like,
yeah,
you could
they're
write
the
this
number
in
one guy.
Sharpie.
Like
He's a
if
top
Lenore
5 pick.
Sellers wins the Heisman and like
Still needs a lot of
South
development,
Carolina,
though. You know what I'm
yes, yeah,
saying?
you're like, but you gonna take that number one overall, right? Like, or if
Yeah,
Kay Klubnik puts together like a better season than he did last year, I think a lot of people will remember how good of a prospect he was coming out of high school, and then
yeah,
he could be pumped up there. Arch Madden walks and chews bubblegum. People are gonna want to take him number one overall. It's
for
the
sure.
question of does he want to come out that year, right? Like
Yeah,
the last name Manning, if he's competent at quarterback, it's a good enough brand name to where somebody's gonna take you number one overall. Like that's
for
just
sure.
what the real is there, right? So yeah, then I think everybody the new Twitter favorite Francisco Mendoza is that the
That's
dude
my
from
guy, man.
Indiana?
That's my
Yeah,
guy. I'm
yeah,
a Mendoza guy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm excited to see him in Indiana this year. So
yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be the college football season is going to be insanely important to two of the teams in the AFC North, right? The Browns have two
oh
first
yeah.
round picks for a reason.
Oh yeah.
Pittsburgh, you don't sign a 42-year-old quarterback and think to yourself, well, next year we're okay, right?
Yeah.
Like they're definitely, I think they're probably preparing for like to be picked 20 again, right? What were they, 22 this year?
It's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, well, what you get, Aller. I joked with you about the Carson Beck thing, but hopefully that's not the route y'all go. But
No. Do not put that evil on me.
I'm just saying, dog. If he get a good year out there, they go sell that sugar water right to somebody. Like, whew.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's
don't
the
put that on
Carson.
me, man.
There's the Carson Beck thing because he was supposed to be the number one overall pick coming into this season. Wasn't
Yeah.
he? If he were like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna
I
be the
mean,
first
I
quarterback
was
taken.
optimistic about Beck, but man, like just the struggles under pressure last year, anytime there was any sort of pressure in the pocket, just like completely cratered. So, and that's a pretty fundamentally bad flaw when you're a quarterback, especially in the NFL where you've got, 2.6 seconds to get the ball out pretty
Yeah.
much every play.
No,
It's tough
him
to
and
live
Drew
like
Aller,
that.
I find fascinating because there are some Drew Aller passes and tape that you look at and you're like, oh my God. Like
Well,
this could
yeah,
be
the dude's
something.
arm,
Yeah.
he's got a rocket launcher attached to his
Yeah.
shoulder.
He's 6'5", but then he just has the propensity to make some of the wildest decisions you've ever seen. And it does
Yeah.
not feel like he's aging out of it. Right. Like
Yep.
it seems like this just might be what he is. Super
Yeah.
young though, right? Well, no, he's gonna be like a true
He's going to be
senior
a
now,
senior.
right?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's got a lot of experience, which I think is a good thing in his favor. But
I don't know because it's like I had the same issue with Cam Ward. It did not matter for teams wanting to draft Cam Ward, but I'm like, hey man, when you play 5 years of football and you still doing crazy shit,
yeah,
I feel like you just do crazy shit. Like,
Yeah.
and you got to just make the determination. Do you have the talent to be able to do it? Like Josh Allen still does crazy shit, but he's
Yeah.
Josh Allen, so it doesn't matter. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger did crazy
Oh yeah,
shit.
we saw
But he
that.
was
Yeah,
Ben Roethlisberger. It doesn't matter, right? Like, I think that's really like, is he talented enough to get away with this at a high level? And that's where it gets complicated with Drew Aller, because like, talented
right,
guy. I don't know if he's going to be consistently that talented though. But
for
yeah,
sure.
interesting draft class. Definitely gonna be a 2-day weekend type of football season for both the Browns and the Steelers, where Saturday is required viewing. But
Absolutely.
appreciate you for coming on, Derek. Where can people find you again if they want to hear more from you?
Yep, at Steelers_DB on Twitter and YouTube. You can find all my written work at SteelersNow.com. Appreciate you having me on, man. It's good to catch up.
No problem, man. You have a great day. Everybody
Yep.
else have a great rest of your day as well. Peace.